Are we ready for some maybe in our life? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, this is Jill from the Northwoods talking about how you can improve your life one small step at a time. Have you ever watched a horror movie where there's a shadow on the wall and it's 10 times larger than the creature that's casting it? Like all of a sudden you see this big black blob on the wall, and then it turns out it's a house cat with a candle behind it. Things get scary, and it tends to scare us when we see small worries that stretch out to become this monstrous shadows in our lives. And it sells us tickets in some ways to our own private horror show. What if I go broke? What if I lose this house? What if this happens? What if that happens? I just had an eye doctor visit, which I talked about in the Monjero videos, where she told me I had swelling in my optic nerve. And I'm like, oh no, what does that even mean? And she felt that it was something temporary. It's something that goes away. But boy, I could ramp that up into a full-blown monster in my life and suffer through this kind of horror show. Instead, it's probably overcast a size. It's overcasting its size in my life. But when we walk right through these shadows with regret and fear, the possibility of something bad happening, these stories we tell ourselves when uncertainty feels very heavy, what we do is we shine a light on it, and then we see what's actually there, right? We see the big shadow coming our way, and we show a flashlight. Oh, it's just a cat. Or it's, something like that. We shine that light, and that's what we do. And we're going to continue our conversation about The Gift of Maybe by Allison Carmen, because the way she reframes uncertainty is quite revolutionary. It's not flashy, it's not forced, it's really gentle and freeing in so many ways. But when we have these fears in our life because of uncertainty, maybe we need to look at it, like I said, in a different way, or shine a flashlight on it. So a couple of years ago, I had a cancer scare. I thought I had cancer, and it was a very dangerous form of cancer. It was a gut punch. I just was told, we did a biopsy, and there are basically 5 levels of cells, and the cells we pulled out were stage 5, and stage 6 is cancer. And we can't be sure that there isn't cancer in there until we have surgery. And so my doctor explained that the plan was that if we're going to do surgery, we're going to look to see if anything looks cancerous. And if it does, I would come out of anesthesia and I'd immediately go into radiation. There's no buffer, no recovery time. It was just that, right from the frying pan into the fire. Scared. I mean, it was just the most scary thing I had in my life. And it's the uncertainty. I didn't know what was coming. And we go into a lot of life when we don't know what is coming our way. But the uncertainty in and of itself is even scarier when your imagination can start filling in the blanks. We don't know, you'd be there. We don't see cancer right now, but we don't know. And we won't know until we do the surgery. So I wait 4 weeks. I prepare my house because I'm going to be laid up for a while, because I'm not, going to be able to get up as easily and make myself meals, so I start immediately getting into the busyness of this particular situation. But in those quiet moments, you start thinking, what if I have a potentially deadly cancer that is practically untreatable? And so this whole story unfolds. I planned my way out of this. I organized my house. I bought food that I could eat. I bought food that I could eat if I had to go through radiation therapy. I prepped appointments that weren't scheduled yet. I made checklists of outcomes that maybe wouldn't even exist. I believed almost in a way that if I stayed ahead of the fear, if I could outplan the fear, I could maybe outrun it. If I overplanned for this. But you know what? The planning didn't make me feel more secure. the preparation, I mean, it was great when I got done with surgery and I had all this available food to eat and everything like that, but it didn't make any of the uncertainty any less uncertain. And if we plan, if we worry, it doesn't prevent the pain. It is just a way. This worry just makes you suffer through it twice. I had to suffer through the pain of worrying, then suffer through the pain of surgery, and then suffer through the pain of recovery. But the worry, it turned out, that all they ever found was the level 5 of angry cells, and I didn't have cancer. And I think he said something really odd when I got done with surgery. He says, well, congratulations. Now breast cancer and heart disease are your number one threat to your life. And I'm like, what a weird thing to say. I just got done worrying about one thing, but I liked my doctor. I'm not complaining about it, but way to make me worry again, dude. So anyway, the idea is that we get through this whole ideas of when maybes are negative. Maybe I have cancer, and we can't get there. You can't imagine a good ending to this. I couldn't even imagine a neutral ending to this. I was so freaked out. The basic direction the brain goes into is terrible and more terrible. And my mind just became this radio station of terrible I couldn't turn off. And so here, like I said, in the end, it turned out I didn't have cancer. Not only that, once the problem was removed, my life got entirely better. I was healthier, stronger, more energetic. I could suddenly bike and hike and travel and live at 100% instead of the way I was kind of limping along before I had this surgery. I didn't even realize how much of my life had been impaired by this health issue that led up to the surgery. It turned out that this surgery was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It delivered me into a better life, a better quality of life, and never once, not even one iota of my thoughts before this surgery, I saw that coming. I imagined, Jill, it may be that you're going to walk out of this and your life is going to become better. Nope, I never thought that once. And so that's why this book, The Gift of Maybe, regret is often described as a reverse maybe. Regret says, this ruined everything. The ending of this is already written. Nothing good can come from this. And uncertainty says, that's not true. You don't know the whole story. And that's the whole point. Like I said in the past podcast, her husband left her and she did not want to be left. This was a life she enjoyed, but her life turned around and changed so much for the better. When I was growing up, I grew up in a town that my mother absolutely hated. She never gave it a chance. She didn't look for friends. She didn't look for hobbies. She didn't look for anything new. She just basically declared this was a miserable place from day one and lived with that conclusion for the years we lived in this town. But it wasn't the town that trapped her. It was her own expectations. And, I've done that too. You've probably done that as well, where we sort of lock ourselves into this story that we're convinced must be true. This move was a mistake. This job ruined everything for me. This decision is not going to end well, or this relationship is doomed. When we lock ourselves into this story, all possibilities freeze into place. The door stays closed, and not because it's locked, but because we refuse to turn the handle and see whatever is behind the door. And how do we break that spell? And this is where Allison Carmen really offers some powerful and very simple advice. She just says, give your doubts a little doubt. Give that inner voice, this is never going to get better. My life is over. And just ask the quick question, are you sure? Because you might not be really that sure. If the inner voice says, we moved to this place and now I'm just never going to find friends here. Really? Never? Never really? If the inner voice says taking this job was a mistake, ask the question, yeah, what if there is good still coming in this. You don't know everything that's going to happen. You don't have to force yourself to believe in a bright, shiny future. It's not the point. You just need to question this ironclad statement that you're making, this is going to end up bad. And it's because negativity loves certainty. It wants to be right. It wants to predict doom. It wants to keep you from trying. It feels risky. Oh no, this is not going to go well. It makes those shadows on the wall look like monsters. It's the maybe that doesn't promise everything is going to be great, but it simply cracks the door open just a little bit and says, you know what? You don't know everything yet. You don't know the whole story. Let's not rush to write the ending of the story. Let's just give it a moment. And when you think back at your life, at the surprises, at the blessings, at the detours, all the things that shaped you being you, very few of them were visible from the very beginning. It's that paradox of uncertainty. It terrifies us, but often it's hiding good things, changes in life, progress in life. And I want to give you this image before we end this podcast today. Imagine that you're worrying is the narrator of your life. The worry is there. And this narrator has this dramatic, movie voice, loves suspense, always assumes the worst is coming. And it's a terrible storyteller. Coming up next, watch Jill's life crash into a million pieces, right? In the best movie voice you have. It predicts disasters that never happened. It invests threats that don't exist, and it magnifies every noise into danger. The shadow isn't monsters. Your fear isn't the truth, and your worrying is not accurate. It's not a reliable narrator. And there's no reason why you have to give it as much power in your life that as you're giving it. So in the next chapter, we're going to talk more now about the practical side of things, tools that you can actually use to make uncertainty feel less like the dark monster in the corner, to make it feel more like familiar, to use visualization. And a visualization in this book that changed my whole approach to decision making. It's gentle and powerful. And I tell you the deep, dark secret, I ended up taking the job that I was too afraid to take because of this book. And boy, I would have been sad in my life had I not done that. But for now, let's just this one thought linger in there. The monster isn't in the room. It's just a shadow on the wall. It's bigger and scarier and louder than the small, manageable challenge that's casting it. And you just have to give it a little bit of question. Is it? Is it scary? Is that going to happen? That's going to be a way for you to get away from the scary monsters. All right, everyone, thanks so much. Appreciate you watching and listening. Please remember that you can go to the website, jillfromthenorthwoods.com. It has all my podcasts, how you can contact me, and if you're interested in the other things that I'm doing. And I'm on other people's podcasts as well. I'm regularly on In Touch with iOS. That films live on Thursday nights, and it talks about Apple topics, tech topics that are going on around the news. I had just been on a couple editions of Mac Voices talking about winter gift guides. So there's other ways to find me if you wish to find me, and you can always email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.